Welcome to Woodbury Writes Podcast. I'm Sandy Carlson, your host, and I'm here today with Jennifer Covello of Norwalk. Jennifer is an award-winning author with more than 30 years of proven marketing and communications expertise, and she also is a copywriter, an editor, and an expert in strategic marketing. She holds a BS degree in Management Information Systems from Indiana University of Pennsylvania, an MBA in Marketing Management from Pace University, and a bachelor's in theology from Life Christian University. Jennifer is a native of Long Island, New York, and she resides now in Fairfield County. You can learn more about Jennifer at her website, jennifercovello.com. You can also find her on Instagram at Elevate the Day. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hello, Sandy.
Thank you for taking your time out today to have a conversation with us about the work you do as a writer. Would you introduce yourself to our listeners as a writer?
Sure thing. Introducing myself as a writer, even that title is a little off-putting at times because I'm so used to describing myself with all of my corporate hats that I used to wear. And so it's interesting how now my life has, transformed into one of being a freelance writer for my clients, as well as an author of a few books now. I have been writing since I could breathe, it feels like. I've always kept, journals or notebooks since I was a kid. Always did better on essay questions in school than multiple choice tests. Got A's on the reports, and it's just part of who I am. For the past 6-7 years, I've been a freelance writer to a variety of corporate clients, and really helping them to tell their stories through a variety of writing platforms, whether it be blogs or thought leadership articles or various press channels. So I've written a few books in the last few years, so now I feel like I've earned the title of writer.
Well, that's great. What inspires you now? You've got a proven track record in the business world, but you've also got a bachelor's degree in theology from Life Christian University. Could you kind of speak to the diversity of your background, your education, and how that's influenced your writing?
Yeah, one of the things that I've always said about myself, and in fact, it got me a job one time, is the breadth of my experience. So, I often refer to myself as a Jill of all trades. And I used to look at that as a negative because, there wasn't a singular expertise, a deep expertise that I could, tout to the world. And, one of the things I think I bring to the table is I can tap into all the various experiences in my writing. So when I am writing for small business owners, I can tap into my small business experience and put that hat on. When I'm writing for my corporate clients, I can put that hat on and speak to them in their language. One of the things that, I really try and do is always to elevate them, elevate their brand. So those folks that I'm writing who have a small business, I'm writing for them as if they're bigger than they are, always looking to elevate and lift up their story, their experiences, their brands. And I think with my Elevate the Day writings, which are, faith-based, and I'm looking to do the same thing. I'm looking to elevate your day in some way, inspire you, encourage you. And I think that that comes through all of the stories that I tell.
So with your faith-based writing, what form do your texts take? What kinds of books or products do you create?
Well, I write a weekly blog every Sunday morning. It comes into people's mailbox or inbox. And so I write blog posts. I also have an Elevate the Day podcast that comes out every week. And, of course, I'm on social media sharing various inspirational or encouraging insights, as well as, Bible-based scriptures or teachings. I've done some videos on the book of Proverbs I just did back in December. So it really is coming from that place of wanting to let people know about how much God loves them, and maybe dispelling some myths that they might have had, or some misinformation that they had growing up, and that perhaps the God they grew up with is not really the God of today. So I talk a lot about that in my book, Finding God, Finding Me, because I grew up Roman Catholic with a very, stringent, strict religion. And it really wasn't until, I kind of unlearned all of that, and by reading the Bible, by going to Bible college, just really got a deeper understanding of who God is through his son Jesus. And that has been the single most transforming aspect of my life.
And so that marked a significant turning point then for you to have this realization. Was it like an epiphany that this is not what I grew up with, this faith that I have?
Well, it was, a series of experiences that I outline in the book, but it really, I think, was being taught by someone that understood what scripture means, and me just sitting there going, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And so it was this revelation that, wow, what I was taught was, I don't want to say wrong, but it was misleading, because it made me, scared of God. Like, if I breathe wrong on Tuesday, he's going to strike me down. And, it just couldn't be further from the truth. And so I think that was really one of the, the impetuses, if you will, for me to, go to Bible college, is I just wanted to know the truth. And I even remember saying that as I was sitting in my room, talking to a friend many years ago, like, I just want to know the truth. So that really set me on the path. And then it was just, a whole bunch of experiences after that.
And did those experiences, are they what inform the writing that you do now?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, I'm I think a teacher at heart. So when I learn something, I want to share it. So as soon as I, learn something new, I'm like, I got to write about this, or we got to do a podcast about this, or, I have to tell someone, because, I just look at myself as a lifelong learner. And, anytime something cool comes my way that I think is going to be helpful to someone, or provide them an insight to make their life better, well, why would I keep that to myself? I want to shout it from the mountaintops.
Yeah, you bring tremendous energy to the conversation. So, and I've seen your posts on Instagram, and I've visited your website, and that is part of the experience of your work, is this vitality and this energy. So, dare I ask, who's your favorite author?
If you were to look at my bookshelf, you're going to see a lot of different people. And, when I was pondering this question, I was like, I don't know that I have a favorite. I think I'm drawn more to the story. I think I'm drawn more to the message. So, it can be from anyone. I mean, Dr. Seuss is one of my favorite authors. You know what I mean? So it's how authentic is that author? How relatable is that author? How well do their words and their story resonate with me in my life? So, I really don't have a favorite. I don't usually look at the authors when I'm going to buy a book. I look at the title. That might be the marketer in me. Like, did they grab my attention? And then I read the story, the description in the back. And if it pulls me in, your name could be John Doe.
I can relate to that, because there are so many authors out there that those titles and even the cover art, what are they saying to me? Because that's the first thing that happens when you look at books. Even the Amazon algorithm, which of the selected books for me are the ones that are going to cause me to click through and see what that story is about.
Right.
So among that eclectic collection of books, is there any single line or that you hold dear to your heart that moves you as a writer, as a thinker, as a teacher and a learner?
You know, what's kind of coming to me right now, and I don't know if this is in one of her books or she just said it, but, and I will be horrible at paraphrasing it, but I think it was Charlotte Bronte who said, I write because I don't know what else to do. Like it's part of me. It's who I am. And I think that just encapsulates everything a writer and an author feels. I don't know what else to do. If I'm not writing, what am I doing? And whether it's, you know, an email to a client or a text message or a book or, you know, whatever it may be, it's instinctive. And so I think it just goes back to, do I have a favorite author? No. Do I have a favorite line or something that sticks out? Probably when I was reading, you know, the book, I'd be like, oh, wow, that's a great line. But I've found myself referring back to that quote by Charlotte Bronte. And I think it just encapsulates every single favorite quote.
I hear you. And it sounds like the diverse range of your professional experience and your experience with such an array of clients in a way mirrors your reading predilections, that you have a capacity to absorb from a wide variety of sources and allow it to inform your own journey as a writer, as a thinker, as a human being.
Yeah, I think maybe it's because I get bored easily, but I'm always looking for, you know, something new. I like the new and the fresh. I like people who, you know, will stretch my mind, and they don't have to agree with me. I mean, you know, think about it. I'm writing about my faith, and guess what? There's going to be a lot of people who don't agree with me. But, you know, I'm open to listening to them. I mean, let's have, you know, great discussions. Let's, you know, think differently. And I think I love the brainstorming, the collecting of ideas, the sharing of ideas with people that think differently. And, you know, when you can have great and meaningful discussions with other people about, you know, anything from like, how did you write your book to, you know, who is God to you? I just really love that interaction and exchange with people, which is probably why I love, you know, doing my podcast so much.
Yeah, that's amazing. And just that being open to ideas is what makes those conversations possible, right? Otherwise, we're in our own little feedback loops and nobody grows. So you're originally from Long Island, but you've been in Connecticut since the late 90s. And I'm just curious, since this is, you know, a Woodbury Writes podcast, to what extent does place matter to you as a writer? Does being in this particular location or the community that you're a part of, does that inform or influence your writing at all?
Well, I would be remiss to say the beach is not one of my, you know, most inspiring places. Am I writing at the beach? Not necessarily, but I am, you know, inspired there. I don't think I could ever live in the mountains, although they are beautiful and majestic. I'm a beach girl at heart. So I think just having that quiet, reflective time helps me to see, you know, new ideas or, you know, new topics for various things. I think, but that would be the case for almost anything, right? When we finally take a minute to breathe, you know, take a minute for ourselves and get out of the noise, that's really where inspiration comes. And, you know, there's a notebook in my bag. I have voice memos on my phone. I send myself emails. When something jars me, I write it down immediately. And so I think that that's critical, to grab those moments of inspiration and just take a minute and leave yourself a phone message or you know, a voice text or whatever, because, you know, especially if it touches your heart, even for that moment, you know, write it down, jot it down, etc., because you never know where it might lead. And I just believe that those are moments of divine inspiration, that God is speaking to you, saying, you know, whatever he wants to communicate with you.
And being open to those ideas in all settings is a very powerful discipline. Jennifer, you mentioned when you went to Christian University to learn more about the Bible, that you had a mentor there who helped you unlock that magnificent text. As a writer, do you have a mentor as well, or somebody that you bounce your ideas off of, or what does that look like for you?
Well, in my freelance writing work, I was a subcontractor to a PR firm, and so I did a lot of work for their clients. But the owner of that business is extremely a very good writer and editor. Her way of thinking about things and approaching different topics or getting that message across just kind of inspired me, but also informed me, like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. And I think really that is, at the heart of good writing is bouncing ideas off someone, partnering with someone, having an accountability partner, if you will. Not that she was my accountability partner, but obviously we were in partnership together to do the best we could for the client. So, I just think being open to having those conversations, being open to correction, because guess what? My way is not always the best way. And, having someone else's expertise, insights, or experience come into play so that you can be better, I think is critical. I mean, nobody likes to see the red marks on their essay from the teacher. We all want, the nice big A at the top, but guess what? We don't get any better if we're always getting A's. It becomes a place of complacency, and I'm just so not about complacency.
Clearly. And these are among the services you offer your clients as well, right? That are available on your website?
Yes, correct. I do copywriting. I do, I guess they look at me or you could look at me as a ghostwriter, because, to the outside world, it's them. To the inside world, it's me. But at the end of the day, their story, their brand, their company is, being put front and center. And that's what's most important.
Terrific. Would you do our listeners the favor of reading from your own work, just to hear that authentic Jennifer voice?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm reading from my memoir called Finding God, Finding Me. This came out right in the middle of COVID, because I just threw out all the marketing expertise that I had and said, you know what, let's just do it. So, a seasoned marketer and a book promoter would have probably said you're nuts, but it turns out that it was the perfect time. So this short reading that I'm going to read is from chapter 3, and it's called Beginnings and Backslidings. And it's actually centered on the scripture from Matthew chapter 19, verse 14. And here it goes. I have vivid memories of swinging on the swing set in my backyard as a young girl, singing. As I swayed back and forth with each pump of my legs, my voice became louder and louder. The clouds, birds, and trees were my fans, and they happily listened to the choruses I sang over and over. Interestingly, I was not singing the pop tunes of the day, no Diana Ross or the Beatles. The songs I sang were those I learned in church. Hymns of praise and worship from the Catholic hymnal filled the air in that little town on the eastern tip of Long Island. I've often wondered if my neighbors could hear me and what they must have thought. In fact, I wondered what my mom thought as she possibly watched me from the kitchen window. My guess is she was a happy camper, seeing her young daughter praising the Lord for the world to hear. Okay, maybe not the whole world. Despite my backyard performances, I was not to become the next Celine Dion, even though my love of singing has stayed with me. I've heard that singing can make you live longer because it releases endorphins and other happy hormones. So I'm going to continue for as long as I can. So what was the impetus for me to sing church songs as I pumped my legs faster and faster, reaching for the sky? It's not like this was the trend of the times. There were no Twitter hashtags like church hymns or hashtag Sunday songs, mostly because there was no Twitter and, oh yeah, no internet and no computers. This was the time of Woodstock and flower children.
Oh, thank you. The juxtaposition of the outside world, pop culture, and what was growing in your heart as a young girl in the backyard with your mom. You paint a beautiful picture with your words. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share it.
How has your book resonated with your audience? What's been your impact of your spiritual writing and your uplifting work on your audience?
Well, I tell you, it has been amazing. Number one, people that I would never have thought would have bought the book, bought it, and, came back to me with a clear message of me too, me too, me too. I can relate to that. I can relate to that. I thought I was the only one. Thank you for being so vulnerable and so, authentic in sharing your story. And I think really that is what has resonated with most people, is that the book is raw and it is real. And I share from my guts about the different experiences that I've had. I share the heartbreak, I share the joys. And I think people really relate to that realness, in a world of masks and fakeness and, plastic. It really, I think people are so hungry to get that human experience and to hear from fellow humans that, look, it's not all a bed of roses out there, folks, and there's lots to be grateful for. But, there's hurting, and there's a hopelessness and a helplessness that many are feeling. And I think the stories that I share are relatable, but also encouraging. Like, if this happened to her and she's still here, that means she made it through. So what was that, that piece? What was that one thing that got her through? And the only thing I can attribute it to is God. That, he saved my life and brought me from darkness to light, and literally. And it's that continual getting to know him better, just like you would someone that you met on, in Starbucks one day. Like, you just kind of clicked, and then you're like, man, I really want to get to know them better. And so what do? Well, you spend time with them. You go do stuff together. You have long talks. Just the same way we get to know other people, that's how we get to know God. And so it's been a cool friendship. Let's put it that way. The best friendship I've ever had.
Well, that's terrific. And I totally agree with you that we are all craving authenticity in human interactions, that nobody wants more of what's delivered in terms of even Instagram ads that kind of mimic the people you're following. And it's like, wait, do I know this person or don't I? Or, these stories about computer generated essays and scholarship. We want to know who people are, where they are, and to share the road with them in a very real way. So I really appreciate your taking time to talk with me about your work, Jennifer, and sharing from Finding God, Finding Me. Can you just remind our listeners where they can find your book and become more acquainted with your work in the social media sphere?
Absolutely. So you can go to jennifercovello.com. That is my secular work, if you will, all my freelance writing and projects and other work that I do is there, along with a link on there for Elevate the Day, which will bring you to my books and my podcast, and you can sign up for my weekly blog there, or you can go directly to elevatetheday.com. Both will get you to all of my Elevate the Day work. And I'm on all the social media platforms under Elevate the Day, Facebook, Instagram. You can certainly look at my LinkedIn profile as well to see my past work experience and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I welcome everyone to stop by and feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to chat with people about their work or brainstorm or just meet for a cup of coffee. Two authors over coffee.
Well, that is a very warm and welcoming invitation, Jennifer. So thank you so much for joining Woodbury Writes today.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.